The Destiny 2 community is weighing in on their opinion of the Edge of Fate. So that way, you out there watching right now, you can make your decision on whether or not you're going to spend your hard-earned money to enjoy Destiny's newest expansion. Now, the reviews, like we've mentioned before, are mixed. We can pull this up on Steam here, actually. Let's do this. 440 reviews, 51% of them are positive, 49% being negative. So we're still at that like halfway point, right? Half positive, half negative when it comes to reviews of The Edge of Fate currently on Steam. And we have an article here from Paul Tassi saying Destiny 2 The Edge of Fate Day 1 Review. Kepler's awful. Lodi's great. Let's see what he's got to say here. Destiny 2 has taken a leap of faith into the next era of the game, overhauling its format, launching into a totally new story, and attempting to retain players while attracting new ones. That first step is The Edge of Fate, the Destiny 2 expansion that launched yesterday. I just wrote a piece about how numbers are quite poor. Less than half the players of the previous least played expansions, but I'll use this piece to talk about the expansion itself. Keep in mind, these are just the day one first impressions, and this is not a full review of the entire expansion, which I'll do later on. Oof, he jumps right into it. He says, it's not great. So far, I dislike most of what I'm playing here, other than a single aspect, the narrative, and I might as well start there. So I have to agree with the narrative is easily the best element so far. By far, the narrative is very good, especially if you do pay close attention to it. It is actually pretty interesting, and it's well thought out and well put together. Well, here's what I'm predicting. He's gonna roast the planetary destination because it's not particularly appealing, and the enemies aren't particularly innovative by any means. You know, you got the jetpacks. The Corsairs, I think, are cool, but the jetpacks aren't that crazy, and or I meant to say rather, the other Fallen variants aren't that crazy. So let's see what he says here. This is one of the only times I can remember where Destiny has created a genuinely interesting series of mysteries where I truly have no idea what's going on and have smacked directly into plot twists I've never seen coming. The linchpin of all this is a new character named Lodi, who first appeared in trailers and drew reaction of, what is this exceedingly normal-looking guy in glasses doing in Destiny? Well, that's part of the mystery. Lodi also excels because of his excellent writing and especially his voice work, which is the best I've seen in Destiny in a long while. Again, if there is a single aspect where the expansion shines, it's this. And while I'm not done with the campaign yet, it's excellent and has me genuinely excited for this era. Well, on that note, I would say that Lodi as a character is definitely intriguing and he brings a lot, but I really liked Ikora in this narrative as well. Like getting some backstory on her and kind of understanding who she is was actually seemed really good. The only caveat to that that made it a little confusing is that her voice changed, and so a lot of people are like, is she an AI generated voice now? Ikora is not AI generated. That would be crazy if it was, but apparently her voice actor is on strike right now because there's like a voice actor guild thing where they're trying to advocate for better pay or unionization, perhaps. I'm pretty sure it's one of those things. And so instead, they took Savathun's voice actor and they said, here, you can read the lines for Ikora for now. And they're going to later update it with the previous voice actor's lines. So just keep that in mind that it will be updated so it'll sound a lot better and make a lot more sense. But I liked Lodi's backstory and he seems very interesting. And I also liked Ikora as well. I think she actually adds a lot to the narrative. And of course, all this ties in with Maya and should be good. The playable expansion itself, woof. Kepler is probably the worst zone I've ever seen in Destiny. The art direction here is just non-existent. The place is a hodgepodge of rocky outcroppings, architecture stolen from Titan, and endless series of postural-filled tunnels that all blend together. I'm trying to think if I agree with this or not. It definitely felt a little bland. It didn't have this like sort of grandiose, like Final Shape Pale Heart level of like beauty to it or like impressive crazy skybox elements. I did enjoy the final mission though, where you do kind of get to see out of this a little bit more, but it is meant to be like a cavern, you know? It has a lot of, if you watch like The Last of Us, like little cordyceps, watch The Last of Us, it has like that kind of vibe to it, right? Even as you're looking at this picture right here, it almost looks like a picture from The Last of Us. I don't necessarily hate it. I don't think that it's bad in and of itself. I just think it's different, and maybe we're used to getting a certain expectation when it comes to Destiny art. But in terms of like the caverns and like the hidden passages. I actually kind of liked that stuff. I thought it was okay. I thought it added a fun element. I mean, comment down below if you did the campaign and you actually got bamboozled at one point and weren't able to make it through a passageway. Because if that is the case, then Bungie did kind of a good job. They made a puzzle that was, challenging, right? And I think that I would give them credit for the challenging puzzle. But yeah, I didn't get this, like, as I went through it, I didn't get the sense of like being in these like, sewers and like, doing all, going through the aesthetic, right? The aesthetic that we see here didn't really seem to be as impressive as, I guess, the Final Shape, Witch Queen, Beyond Light, or even Lightfall, I guess. Yeah, Lightfall all had clear, quite good aesthetics, and that's one area Bungie has always shined. It's a huge miss here, man. I do feel like it's a miss. I wouldn't say it's a huge miss. I do think it's a miss. I'm not saying it's a huge miss. Bungie has also made this zone non-traversable by Sparrow to artificially increase its size. Hey, you can traverse it through the matter spark, right? That's kind of, you can see why they did the matter spark, because they made the terrain not horizontal. Like, it's not like you could just ride a Sparrow across it. They made it very like vertically challenging. Like there's, peaks and valleys, right? And so with that, you can traverse it pretty well with matter spark. Like, it actually seems like an intentional design that makes sense when you are navigating around. Rather, you're meant to get around by a series of destination-only powers that involve teleporting guns, strand matter moving, and a Samus errand ball of electricity, which might be the dumbest mechanic I've seen in the series. Man, people hating on the ball, dude. People hating on the ball. I'm telling you right now, if I took a poll of everyone's opinion of the lightning ball, right, the matter spark in Destiny 2, I'm thinking it's like a 25 positive, 75 negative split. These feel like gimmicks for their own sake, and while there are maybe one or two puzzles where these systems combine to be kind of neat, overwhelmingly, I find myself groaning whenever I'm told to use any of these, especially the electric ball, which, fun fact, is also making people motion sick. Damn. I've engaged with the new loot systems on a cursory level. One thing that feels weird to me is that there's going to be such a limited pool of new gear to get season bonuses and hunt through the new tier 5 system. Yes, you can use your old stuff, but I can't just try to get a new tier 5 version of my bygones now. For the millionth time, all this old gear will have to be reissued under the new tier system, which already feels like an exhausting concept. How many times can we do this? That actually is a pretty fair criticism, but the armor has been pretty old, and the only way you can get people excited for new things is by diminishing the old things to some degree. There's only two routes that Destiny 2 can go. They can go the route where we constantly buff and nerf things. It's a buff to this and a nerf to that, and then a buff to this and a nerf to that, and it keeps going. That's route number one. Or route number two is you have kind of a hard reset where you reset all these values, and ultimately what you need is every new weapon that comes out needs to be better than the previous weapons currently in the game, because otherwise, why would you get it, right? If there's a new Trials hand cannon that comes out that's objectively worse, like its base stats and perks are worse than current existing hand cannons, no one's going to care. There's no point. You shouldn't have even made that new hand cannon in that situation, right? So that creates power creep. And so what Bungie does is they have kind of a two-tier, they use both prongs on that system where they buff and nerf things constantly, and then eventually they have kind of a hard reset point, and that's where we're at with the expansion. We're at kind of a hard reset point where we're setting everything back. And you'll notice that if you have like really low stats, you getting your abilities back is crazy. You're not going to get your grenade back like forever if you have low grenade stat, right? So if you really want to throw a bunch of nades, you're going to have to spec into that and work around that to have a really high uptime with your grenade or grenade-oriented build, things like that. And the same thing applies from top to bottom for all the other systems of the game as well. And it's really a double-edged sword where I don't know how you could do it better other than just like always making new things and always pouring more gasoline on the fire and just constantly innovating. But it's hard, I think. I think it's very hard for Bungie. I don't know if they have the manpower to do as much new loot and as much new interesting loot as we would like, as much as it pains me to say that, right? And those questions quickly lead people into discussing a Destiny 3, right? But then we have to go down that whole rabbit hole, and we're not spending any more time on that right now. I can't quite make heads or tails of the new armor system yet. This is the first time we've had to regrind armor since Artifice armor was introduced. Some didn't even do that. There are very awkward aspects to the new system, like how exotics don't fit in at all. But initially, it's hard to get your head around which new stats to invest into and when to replace your old faithful gear. I can't say if this is all good or bad yet, albeit I will admit that we needed some significant armor changes and reason to pursue it again. So that's really the overarching goal that is addressed in a good way from Bungie, which is that armor matters now more so than it ever has before. And I imagine every new iteration of armor that we get will be pushing the boundaries. It'll be like power creep, right, for weapons that we've been seeing, but it'll be like armor power creep. And I think that we'll see more and more of that, especially with certain set bonus. There's probably going to be some armor that has crazy set bonuses. Maybe the raid armor, right? Apparently they had to disable the set bonus on the raid armor because it was breaking the game. So keep that in mind. That's what I've heard. And so you've got that. It's going to continue to happen. So you're going to see power creep like we've seen with weapons where, you know, new hand cannon comes out and it has explosive payload one for all, and new hand cannon comes out and it has explosive payload one for all and a stronger origin trait, and new and so on and so forth, right? And it keeps getting up and up and up and up. The same thing can happen now with armor with this new system where you keep getting new armor and then there's a new set out that's even more powerful or can get even higher stats or can do something special, right? And I think that that's Bungie's approach with this, is that we've been too reliant and too heavy on the weapons being good, and we've invested so much time and energy in learning all these damn perks. There's like 1,000 perk names for Destiny 2 perks, right? And you learn all the names of them, you learn what they do, right? Well, now we're starting at a whole new frontier here where you need to learn and understand all the different armor, set bonuses, how they tie into each other. And it's kind of exciting if you're interested in build crafting and interested in getting more powerful in the game. But if you're not, if you're kind of fatigued and burned out, then yeah, you know, it's not going to be very interesting for you. But I think it is a good change overall. And I think that in the long run, I think that this is the right direction for Destiny 2 to go. I have not engaged with the portal yet. I've been entirely on Kepler. I remain skeptical of this system, with solo ops being entirely relegated to lost sectors and fireteam ops requiring a pre-made team to get the most out of the new modifier picker system. Otherwise, you're just doing a playlist with preset ones, which is no different than before. And somehow Pinnacle Ops doesn't have a single dungeon or raid in it. All old content outside the portal now feels useless as you cannot get new gear from it. That's a big problem, right? That is actually a big problem. All the new armor, yeah, it definitely is funneling people into a particular direction. It is a problem now, but also we should say that right now you would probably not want to be doing the old stuff again anyways. Plus, you would also be complaining if the new armor got updated and it didn't update your armor that you got pre-Edge of Fate, right? You'd be like, wow, you just invalidated my Vault of Glass armor, so now I just have to go do Vault of Glass again, in which it's bugged anyways. And I gotta go do Vault of Glass again now to get the same armor that I got last week, but now this time it's in the new system, right? And so, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I think that old content getting integrated into the new armor system is something that will happen with time. I think that they'll raise up the values of the old armor, perhaps. But right now, obviously, the focus mainly for Bungie is on selling the expansion, getting people into the narrative. The narrative is meant to be the selling point. The narrative is good. The new planetary destination is actually pretty cool, even though you can't fly a sparrow around. I don't mind it too much. I actually enjoy navigating through all the little areas of it. I think it's pretty interesting. And it's different, right? If we just continue to copy and paste new map, like Europa, Nessus, and we just change the color of the map and just new planets on and on and on, then that also gets old and that also gets repetitive. I like that the new planetary destination Kepler, you can't have your sparrow on it because it has so much vertical terrain. Like I think that's interesting. You know, and I might be in the minority opinion for that. It makes the planet more interesting than if we just copy and pasted Europa, but this time it's orange, you know? It's like, sure, you know, not as interesting to me. I'm not feeling good about this expansion. Once I get through the very good narrative of the campaign, I'm not sure if the rest of this is going to be engaging from here, particularly if we're done doing week-to-week beats to return for. There is promise in the new era's story. I'm not sure if there's promise in Destiny 2 overall from here. But again, it's day one and more to come later. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. We got the Edge of Fate day one reviews out.